Hey everybody, DM Galabond here, and tonight on Monster Monday, we're going to take a look at another monster from the Call of the Netherdeep campaign, and this is the Light Devourer. Now, the Light Devourer is a creature from the campaign that preys on the fears of the deep, dark chambers of the sea. This creature is a human-sized anglerfish that can do some nasty tricks with any light brought near it, and it has a very deadly bite. Now, it's normally a challenge for a party of adventurers in Tier 1, but what would some variants to challenge Tier 2, Tier 3, and Tier 4 adventurers be like? Stay tuned and find out. The Light Devourer is loosely based on the real-world anglerfish. The Light Devourer is a monster that is seemingly created from whole cloth for the Netherdeep campaign. Now, in my research, I could not find any examples of any kind of anglerfish antecedent monsters, either in 5th edition or in previous editions of the game. Now, of course, I typically look at the official sources. I'm sure that there are a lot of DMs out there that have made homebrew type of anglerfish that might be similar to this monster. But there was nothing that was really like an anglerfish that I could find in any of my library of official sources. What's more, the monsters are classified as aberrations, and they seem to be native to the demiplane of the Netherdeep itself. That means that if you are in the world of the Critical Role campaign, you're probably not going to find these monsters outside of an aberrant demiplane, such as the Netherdeep. Now, the gimmick of the Light Devourer is that when bright light is brought near it, the creature's skin can absorb it, and then the Light Devourer will glow with a dim light that is out to a few feet from the creature's body, and that glow will last for an hour. So during that time, it can choose to make an attack by discharging all of the absorbed light in a single brilliant flash, and that flash deals radiant damage to every creature within 20 feet of the monster. So we're going to take that feature, and that's one of the features we are going to adjust as we make the different variations of this monster. Now, within the Netherdeep campaign itself, the PCs do not encounter the Light Devourer until they enter the demiplane of the Netherdeep. The aberrant nature of the creature means it's not something that someone would find anywhere in the natural oceans of Exandria. But that doesn't mean that you can't put them in your own game world. And if you want to keep them as aberrations, you might use them as maybe some sort of a marker or indicator that there is a portal or a passageway or a trot or whatever you want to call it to some sort of aberrant demiplane that is somewhere nearby these creatures. So that might be something without telling your players that's what you're doing. If you put them there and they consistently find these in the proximity of those portals, they might eventually realize, oh, if we find one of these monsters, it means there's a portal nearby. And if that's kind of the way that you want to run your game, that can be sort of a very cool way if one of the features of your campaign is that maybe the barriers between different planes or different planes of reality are kind of breaking down and things are sort of oozing or getting through from one plane of existence to another. Now, within the Netherdeep campaign itself, there are several encounters featuring the Light Devourer, and in some of those, this is the only enemy the party faces, and in other encounters, the Light Devourers appear alongside other Netherdeep nasties. And in every case, the Light Devourers are hidden in deep black water and do not glow unless the PCs bring a light source within range. So they always start from being just a dark fish in dark water that is very deep and can't be seen unless you have a light source that will illuminate it. Let's talk a little bit about how the Light Devourer is described, some of the lore is given for it, and then some of the tactics you might use if you have this monster in one of your own campaigns. The Light Devourer looks like a spiny anglerfish some 6 feet long, with multiple rows of needle-sharp teeth lining its large jaws. Creatures of the Netherdeep itself, the monsters have strands of ruidium hanging from the underside of their body, and the sides of the fish are dotted with rows of dull pink spots that glow after the fish absorbs light, and these spots emit a single strobe-like flash all at once, like so many flashbulbs, when it uses its radiant discharge bonus action. Now, some of the lore about this monster is that the Light Devourer gets its name from its ability to absorb bright light, whether natural or magical, in its immediate environment. After doing so, the creature begins to glow, the spines lining its back and its numerous needle-like teeth in its maw burning brightly as it converts that stolen light into searing energy, which rips into its prey. And when not illuminated, the Light Devourer lurks in darkness, stalking the ocean depths for its next meal. And some tactics you might use when you have this monster as part of an encounter. Let it lurk in darkness until it spots the light of potential prey. Then have it move to within range so it can absorb the light and begin glowing. So if you want to make this a potentially more lethal and more sneaky monster, think about this. Imagine having an area of your deep oceans where there is like some bioluminescent algae of some sort, and have the Light Devourer be kind of lurking in that area. Then, as your PCs dive or swim down closer, they may notice this bioluminescence and they may get closer and bringing their own light sources. When they get nearer to this, it could then trigger the light absorption feature of the Light Devourer. And if the fish is very, very still, you might give it a stealth roll to see if maybe it will beat the passive perception of your PCs so that they don't know it's there as long as it remains motionless. And then when enough of the PCs get within range, it can try this radiant discharge bonus action to deal damage and then attack with its bite. So that is a potential way that you could use this in a campaign. The Light Devourer is an aberration, and aberrations are utterly alien beings. Many of them have innate magical abilities drawn from the creature's alien mind rather than the mystical forces of the world. The quintessential aberrations are Aboleths, Beholders, Mind Flayers, and Slotty. Now, as we'll see, it's not so much the mind of the creature as it is with this case, but it's kind of more just the nature of this thing being an aberration from a different realm is kind of what gives it its special abilities. Let's take a look at the stat block for the Light Devourer as written in the campaign. The Light Devourer is a medium aberration, unaligned, armor class 14, 119 hit points, that's 14d8 plus 56. Doesn't have any movement speed except for the swim speed of 30 feet. And plus 4 on its initiative. Strength is 18, dex is 18, con is 18. So physically, it's a pretty beefy creature. But then intelligence is 2, wisdom is 10, which is just animal intelligence, and charisma is 3. So it's just really kind of a magical beast, if you will. A magical creature that is just part of its environment. And it's an aberration because of the fact that it comes from a different plane of existence. So perception is plus 3 and stealth is plus 10. The damage immunities are radiant, It has dark vision out to 120 feet, passive perception of 13, challenge rating 6, proficiency bonus +3. And then we get into the first of its interesting abilities, which is light absorption. So the Light Devourer spends any part of its turn in an area of bright light or is subjected to radiant damage. It radiates dim light in a 10-foot radius for an hour. So now, what is an area of bright light? Well, you know that in D&D, every light source usually says that if it will if it emits bright light, it'll say it emits bright light out to a certain radius, and then perhaps it emits dim light for another radius out beyond that. So you have to get that bright light within that radius to touch the creature, and that is when it would be able to absorb that, or you would have to have somebody attack the creature and try to deal radiant damage to it. Now, it's immune to radiant, but presumably your PCs won't know that the first time they encounter one of these. So they might have just one of their standard spells, would be a radiant spell, and then, aha, now you've charged your monster. Water breathing, the Devourer can only breathe underwater. The Light Devourer gets 2 bite attacks. Those are +7 to hit, reach of 5 feet, and 5d6 +4 piercing damage. But if the creature is glowing, that piercing damage becomes radiant damage instead. So it's not radiant damage on top of the piercing damage if it's glowing. It's just changing the damage type from piercing to radiant. And then the bonus action, it gets its radiant discharge. If it's radiating light, it releases the light stored in its body in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on itself, then ceases to radiate light. Every creature in the sphere must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, taking 7d6 radiant damage on a failed save or half as much damage on a successful one. That is the Garden Variety Light Devourer, a CR6 monster that is suitable to throw against a level 4 party. Now let's take a look at some of the variations and what we might do. Now in this case, I tried to think of what you might change with this, and to me, the best way to change this monster, like a lot of monsters that are in the deep, as long as it keeps living, it just gets larger. So that's exactly what we're going to do. This is a large creature, or this is a medium creature. So now we are going to go to a large Light Devourer. And that is a challenge for a tier 2 party at level 10. Now this time it's armor class 15, 16d12 plus 64 hit points, swim speed is 40 feet, CR 13. Now, its strength and the constitution have both gone up a little bit. The intelligence and the charisma are both just slightly elevated. Attack bonus is +9, damage bonus is +4. Still gets 2 bite attacks, but now those are +9, and the damage is 66 +4. Still is immune to radiant damage, and the radiant discharge still has a 20-foot radius, but now it's a DC 16 Constitution saving throw and 8d6 radiant damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. And that is the tier 2 variant. Now let's take a look at the tier 3 variant, which is, of course, the huge Light Devourer. And this armor class is now up to 16. Hit points are 21d12 plus 105. Swim speed of 50 feet. CR 19. The strength and the constitution again are bumped up a little bit. The intelligence and the charisma are also bumped up a tiny bit. The attack bonus is +11, damage bonus is +5. Still gets 2 bites, but now those bites are a reach of 10 feet, and the damage from the bites is 68 +5 piercing or radiant damage, depending on whether it's radiating light or not. And then the Radiant Discharge, this now has a 30-foot radius sphere out from the monster. And the Constitution save is a DC 17 against 8d8 radiant damage. So that is the Tier 3 version of the monster. Now, of course, the Tier 4 version of the Light Devourer is the Gargantuan Light Devourer. And this has armor class 18, 22 d20 plus 132 hit points. Strength and Constitution are both 22. All the other stats have not changed. It now gets 3 bites with an attack bonus of plus 13 and a reach of 15 feet. And the damage from each of those bites is 8d8 plus 6 piercing damage. And the damage type is radiant, of course, if it's radiating light. Now it has resistances to cold damage and damage from non-magical weapons that are not adamantine. And other special abilities, the Radiant Discharge, this now is a 40-foot sphere, a DC 18 Constitution save, and the damage from the Radiant Discharge is 10d8 radiant damage. And the creature is stunned until the end of the Devourer's next turn. So on the successful save, the creature takes only half the damage and is not stunned. With each of these different levels, we're making it a little bit tougher, a little bit harder to hit, a little bit bigger bag of hit points, deals a little bit more damage, and on these last couple of variants, we are adding a stun effect along with the damage effect from the Radiant Discharge. Those are a couple of ways that you might be able to make the Light Devourer more of a challenge for higher tier parties. All right, that's going to do it for our look at this monster this week. I have been DM Galabon. This has been Monster Monday. You can join me for live streams several nights a week. I do 3 live streams currently. I have my Sunday game at 2 p.m. Eastern, the Walker of Waterdeep. That is where we cross the streams between D&D 5e and Magic the Gathering. Then on Wednesday evenings, I have my Sword Coast Chronicles game. That is a 5th edition survey game, and that is Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then Saturday nights, we go old school. We are doing a 2nd edition game, and a game that we're calling Saturday Night Greyhawk. And right now, we are using 2nd edition rules to go through the original Temple of Elemental Evil. So if you've never seen that adventure played, or you've never played through it and you wonder what that adventure is all about, you can come join us on Saturday nights. That is 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All of those live streams are over on the Twitch channel. All of the archives of the live streams, as well as all of the other D&D content that I create, are right here on the YouTube channel. And I do have a Patreon in case you want to help us make more content. Next week, we're going to continue our look at monsters out of the Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep sourcebook, and we're going to be looking at the Monastics. All right, I've been DM Galabond. This has been Monster Monday. Take care, everybody, and remember, watch out for the monsters under the bed. Good night.